Hello, everyone, and welcome to Art of Citizenry podcast, where we navigate the complexities of doing good in an unequal world. I am your host and in-house educator, Manpreet Kaur Kalra. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first mini episode of the Art of Citizenry podcast. In an effort to share more bite-sized food for thought, I'm introducing these short listens for you to ponder. I hope you find them insightful. Over the past week, I took some time to reflect on last Wednesday's white supremacy insurrection. From Modi's India to Trump's America, there is no arguing that nationalism thrives on the polarization of the other. Two of the world's largest democracies are currently grappling with the realities of autocratic leaders who have managed to create deep divides within their countries through nationalist appeals. From the farmers' protests to BLM protests, neither Modi nor Trump are strangers to protests, but both have managed to disregard democratic norms to strengthen and test the extent of their executive power. Trump's Muslim ban executive order, which now feels like forever ago, but really wasn't, blocked the entry of individuals from several Islamic countries, especially Syrian refugees seeking protection in the United States. The Trump administration cited terrorism as a reason for the Muslim ban, giving validity to white America's inability to think a terrorist can be anyone other than a brown-skinned, Arabic-speaking Muslim, or anyone that, quote, end quote, looks Muslim. The events of Capitol Hill would certainly counter that narrative. On the other side of the world, Trump's dear friend Modi played his own page from the Islamophobia for World Leaders playbook. Earlier last year, Modi pushed into effect the Citizenship Amendment Bill, which authorized the use of religion as a criteria for determining whether undocumented migrants in India could be granted citizenship. What's interesting is that Islam was specifically not included as a fast-track religion, while other religions were. Islamophobia at its finest. While on the surface, the simple notion of granting citizenship to the country's undocumented population sounds like a move towards creating a more equitable society, this layer of religious hegemony feeds into India's push towards a Hindu-centric nation. Nationalism at its core creates dangerous divisions that can easily be stoked through false narratives. It builds on fear, giving hate the fuel it needs to thrive. So why do we keep saying things like America is better than this, or this isn't who we are, when America was built on the genocide and exploitation of indigenous and Black people? My fear with many of the conversations currently happening in light of last week's events is this notion that nationalism is somehow a new construct. It is not. It has always existed. It is now just planting its flag at the nation's capital. India and America might be called democracies, but both are currently navigating the result of an autocratic government which thrives on the consolidation of power, oppression of dissent, and nationalism. This consolidation of power is built on the existence of structural oppression and its exploitation. There will always be people who wield power and those who yield it. We are seeing the realities of polarization, with hate running through the veins of nation-states and dripping off the tongues of their leaders. So where do we go from here? We can start by recognizing that uprisings are not the problem. In fact, They are a necessity in any healthy system because they challenge the consolidation of power. However, motivations when rooted in hate must be addressed by unpacking the systemic structures breathing life into hate. We can start debiasing language and addressing why we use softer words to describe white people who terrorize the nation's capital by simply calling them armed protesters instead of what they really are, terrorists. Language has power, and using the right term leads to more accountability. Finally, we can take the time to recognize how we benefit from and at many times reinforce systems of oppression. By reflecting on where we stand in relation to power and challenging the systems we operate in, we are not accepting the status quo at face value and naming our privilege. For example, if it wasn't for the civil rights movement led by Black Americans, my family would not have been able to move to the United States under the Immigration Act of 1924, which was overturned in 1965 after the civil rights movement challenged white America's racist systems. Looking back at Nazi Germany, we might tell ourselves how obvious it was, or must have been, to identify fascism. But that's the thing. History repeats itself, because in any given moment, we struggle to name moments what they are. Throughout Trump and Modi's term, there have been countless policies driven by hate, but it took one of the most outrageous events in American history and the world's largest protest for us to finally recognize the ways in which we are letting history repeat itself. Let's change that. With that, I want to thank all the listeners for tuning in to this mini episode. Let's keep the conversation going. Find me on Instagram at Manpreet Kaura and share your thoughts. To learn more about Art of Citizenry and for information on future webinars and workshops, please visit artofcitizenry.com. Please remember to also subscribe to Art of Citizenry podcast on your favorite listening app. From here on Duwamish land, sending positive and healthy vibes your way.